Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Thanks so much for joining. We are here today to talk all about compliance. And we've got several partners here with us today, and we are going to have a great chat. Our goal today is, even if you're not yet using Celerant software or you're not a client of Fastbound or Cloud 4473, we want you to learn something and learn best practices and takeaways for ATF compliance. So 2 quick notes. First is we're recording this session. So after the live session, every registrant will get a recorded link for the session today. Also on the GoToWebinar control panel, there is a Q&A section. You can ask any question. We encourage you to ask questions. At the end of the session, we're going to save 10 minutes and go through any of the questions. We have quite a lineup for you today. So I will kick us off. My name is Michelle Salerno here with I head the marketing team, and I work out of our main office, which is in New Jersey, and I'm with Celerant now a little over 18 years. Jamie?
I'm Jameson Collins. I'm with Fastbound. I've been with Fastbound for a little over 3 years, and I manage all the sales and business development.
Hi, I'm Travis Glover. I am Chief Operating Officer for Silencer Shop and 4473 Cloud. We're based down here in the great state of Texas. I've been in the industry for 30 years. It's been a long time. And most of my career has been spent on the compliance side of the house. So thank you everybody for joining, and look forward to chatting with you today.
Who's next? You want me to go, Chris?
Go ahead, JC.
Yep.
Yeah.
Most of you probably know me. I'm JC, John Clark with FFL Consultants. I'm the managing director over there. With Travis, I've been in the industry for probably 20, 30 years now. I lost count a long time ago. We're one of the primary consultancy firms for the National Shooting Sports Foundation. We support FFLs all over the country with various compliance efforts. So thanks for being here today.
Thanks. My name is Chris Timone, and I've been with Celerant Technology now for about 9 years. And I'm one of the sales executives here and work out of my home office in Illinois.
Thank you, gentlemen. So for those of you who don't know our companies, we'll give a quick overview of who we are as companies, and then we'll jump into today's presentation. So first, for Celerant, we are an all-in-one retail software provider. So we give dealers the ability to streamline their operations and manage their brick and mortar and their online business all in one system. From point of sale, compliance, e-commerce, mobile apps, even digital marketing. We have 7 offices nationwide and a few international. We've been serving the industry for, well, it'll be 25 years this October. And for 20 of those years, we've been a preferred software provider for the NSSF, along with the NRA, and more recently, the Archery Trade Association and the NASGW.
So I had mentioned, FFL Consultants, we offer a myriad of services to FFLs of all sizes and types to include ranges. I think if we're not the only, we're one of the only full service, full suite compliance consultancy and business support firms in the industry. Again, 30 plus years combined. Our backgrounds are actually compliance and retail operations. So I spent the better part of 2 decades managing through compliance of about, 400 or 500 retail locations across the country. And we work with a number of different practice partners on the legal side of things. Kutak Rock is actually our primary law firm. They act as our chief counsel and support us with all of the questions that come up from a state and federal regulatory standpoint.
Jameson?
Yep, how to turn myself off of mute. Fastbound's been in the industry since 2010. We work with over 6,000 FFLs to ensure that they're compliant. And all we do is FFL compliance. So we want to make sure that your bound book's compliant, your 4473s, and that ATF shows up that you guys are happy and you're comfortable and that you don't get dinged on any issues. We're also backed by FFL Guard with our compliance guarantee.
And 4473 Cloud is kind of an extension of Fastbound in the sense that what we are is a digital storage repository for your 4473s. And we'll talk about this a little more here in a minute, but since 2022, you've not needed a variance approval to store your 4473s digitally. And that's what 4473 Cloud does, or as Michelle likes to call it, Cloud 4473. I suspect she'll do that about 45 more times today. But it's the same company, 4473 Cloud and Cloud 4473. That's us. That's what we do. We are attorney backed as well through FFL Guard. And we're also the preferred provider for NSSF when it comes to 4473 digital storage.
Got it. And of course, you call me out on that trap. Tomato, tomato. All right, so we are going to get into it. We have lots to discuss today. So let's go through the agenda quickly. First, we're going to look at key software features that y'all should be looking for when looking for software. Two parts to that. There's your compliance software, which Jameson is going to talk through. And then I'll talk through different things to look for that's important for your point of sale and how it's important that you're selecting a point of sale that really supports our industry. Next, we'll talk about the most frequent ATF violations. And JC will talk through that and then go right into common 4473 errors. And more importantly, what can you do to make sure that you are staying compliant? Then we'll talk about benefits of storing your 4473s in the cloud. And lastly, why an integrated solution is necessary. You tie this all together with the software and really save time and help stay compliant. And then the last part, we'll watch a quick software demo. We'll save about 15 minutes at the end so you can see a little bit of what we're talking about today. Of course, we would be eager to offer a full demo. I'm sure Jameson would as well, and we can schedule those after today's live session. And the last couple of minutes we'll save for Q&A. So remember to submit your questions. We will happily answer all of those questions at the end. Whatever we don't get to, we will address via email after the live session. So up first, key software features to look for when looking for compliant software. Go ahead, Jamie.
All right, one of the biggest things is guaranteed legal defense. Fastbound works with thousands of dealers, and whenever we release new features or functions or ATF is rolling out new updates, we always work with our partners to make sure that our software is compliant and that anything we have you do does not get you in trouble. So when you guys are going and looking for compliant solutions, ask them how they're going to back it up. Ask them who they vet their compliance features with to make sure that they're not getting you in trouble. I hear horror stories every day talking to dealers that are having to switch softwares or that were promised or that, 6 months into it, they get an audit and long and behold, the feature they had or they thought they were protected is not, and ATF's telling them they have to change. So when you guys are going out and vetting for softwares and solutions, make sure that you understand how it's built, who's vetting the features, and what happens if something, because of the software, gets you in trouble. Fastbound, you're protected. We have our 100% guarantee through FFL Guard. The next one's your bound book and 4473 combined. I get a lot of people that are like, oh, I'm using paper, I'm using this solution. Make sure that your bound book is built in with your 4473, so that way when you're completing it, it's all tied together, that the individual that filled out the 4473, that same information is being used to dispose of the firearm. Built-in compliance warnings, that's really important to make sure that the system is letting you know if the form wasn't filled out completely, if you didn't submit a multiple sale, if you need a signature, or if question 30, if you need to recertify it because it's been on hold for three days. How the system integrates with your background checks. So there's NICS, there's all your point of contact states. Make sure that the system is going to help that make it easier for you so you're not having to sit there and type it all in. Multiple sales, that's always a big one. Make sure that the system's tracking that, understand how it tracks it to ensure that you're properly filing those and submitting them to the ATF. Easy check integration is something that Fastbound has. A lot of software will say, hey, we're connected to Easy Check. Well, they pull a list of FFLs once a year and they upload it into their database. With Fastbound, we update it every day. So it's important to understand that because you want to make sure that you're acquiring and disposing to a valid FFL especially if you're shipping out to other dealers. You won't want to ship to an FFL that went out of business and lost their license 6 months ago. Audit trails, how does the system track that? You have to track any change to any ATF field, and it has to properly show up in your bound book. Fastbound, any change made in the system leaves an audit trail. Training and support, make sure you guys don't sign up for a product and you're left out there with no support. You want to make sure that there's proper training videos, that there's a support team to help guide you through that experience to make sure that you're comfortable and you understand how to use that product.
And make sure there's phone support.
Compliance updates, make sure the software is updated. That's the biggest thing, is make sure that the forms are correct, that the bound book's correct, that any of the features or functions adhere to all, updated requirements. I've seen too many times where people are still using outdated forms. The bound book does not have the correct format, and they're not capturing the right information. Whenever the ATF releases new requirements, they have a deadline, and your software needs to make sure that it's up to date by that deadline.
All right, thanks. So next we'll look at features that you could look for, you should look for in your retail software. And so by retail software, we're talking about point of sale, but also e-commerce. So your brick and mortar and your entire online business as well. And so I'll say this, the days of a point of sale simply tracking inventory and processing sales are really long over. Your software that you're using in your store should do so much more. And if you're using a system that's actually built for the firearms industry, it's going to give you so many more capabilities, and it's going to help you streamline so much of your business, not just your compliance, of course, which is what we're talking about today, but a lot of other things too. So that's really what I want to just kind of mention some of those things here. So if your point of sale is SaaS-based, if it's mobile friendly, you can take that on a tablet, on a laptop. You can take it to your trade shows, your buying shows, the SHOT Show. You can take it anywhere, and you can make your orders right within that software, and it's going to sync back to your store in real time. You can integrate with your distributors. So most of y'all order from 2, 3, 4, maybe 6 different distributors. But if your point of sale software has integrations with those vendors, you can do really cool things like catalog imports, electronic ordering. You can even lean on the software to automate your ordering based on min-max levels. Type 7 manufacturing. Your software has to support that. There's specific requirements within your point of sale software, and of course through the Fastbound integration, that need to support that. And at Celerant, that's something new that we added this past year. So we're pretty excited about that. And then if you have a range, you can have full range capabilities within your point of sale software as well, and have it all on one connected system. Scheduling lanes, creating classes, reserving classes or lanes on a schedule view, all of that becomes easy when the system is integrated. You can do digital waivers with integration. You can do text messages from the point of sale, reminding your customers of their scheduled times, or if they go over, all sorts of stuff that you can do specifically for firearm dealers. For e-com, of course, you can launch a website, right? Hopefully everybody here has a website, but you can also launch apps, maybe a mobile app, or maybe a mobile range app if you have a range. And then if you have an FFL locator on that e-commerce site, you can ship and you can sell firearms. But of course, you're shipping the firearm not to the consumer, obviously, but to the local FFL of their choice that they've selected from the selector on your e-commerce site. Marketplace integrations. So whether you're selling on Gunbroker or Guns.Deals or eBay or Weapon Depot or Guns America, I mean, there's so many different online marketplaces. And you don't need an integration to do that, but when you have an integration from within your point of sale software or your e-commerce software, you can post products to the marketplace. You can pull back orders. Most importantly, your inventory is connected. So as soon as something is sold in your store or on your website, it's going to reflect on that marketplace instantly because of the integration. And then the drop ship piece and the vendor feeds, that's of course going back to distributor integrations. You can pull product feeds from any of your distributors. You can display all their product images, product descriptions, available inventory counts. You can post all that on your website, get access to basically any and every product they have in stock, make it available for sale on your website, and then have your vendor drop ship on your behalf. And of course, they're going to drop ship either direct to your consumer or to a local FFL if it's a firearm. And of course, your customer is selecting which local FFL based on that locator on your website. So lots of different things that you can do with the right software that's designed for firearms. Of course, at Celerant, we can handle all this. Chris would happily give you all a demo if you're interested, but probably your software can do some of this, or find out what they're capable of. Can they do apps? Can they do vendor feeds? And then if you're on a software that doesn't support firearms specifically, this is some of the stuff that you're missing out on. And think of how much you can propel your business forward by taking advantage of some of these more firearm specific features and integrations. Up next, we are going to talk about ATF violations. JC is going to take this one over. What used to be the big five. Well, JC, I will let you take it.
Yeah, sure. So, the reason why we all came here today to kind of educate and provide this information to you is because when you look or looking to explore or bring on a software solution, one of the biggest things that we always kind of profess to FFLs that we support is, look, the right solution can make your life so much better just from an operational standpoint, sales standpoint, but it can also save you the headache that's associated with a lot of compliance related problems that FFLs run into all the time. So we kind of laugh. The big five are still the big five. It's called the 5 deadly sins. Of course, there's more than that when you really delve into it. And I really wanted to paint the picture that, these are the 10 things that you really need to be focused on. I'm not going to go in depth, but I'm going to pick a few here and there just to talk about, the transferring a firearm to a prohibited person. What does that mean? Well, I hear FFLs all the time tell me, I wouldn't be so stupid to get it denied from NICS or from a point of contact state and transfer a firearm. Well, that's all well and good, but you may not get it denied. You may get a non-immigrant alien that didn't provide you with the correct documentation, or you didn't verify their I-94 status. Any number of things. You can transfer a firearm past the 30-day mark. You can transfer a firearm prior to the 3-day mark. So there's any number of nuances involved with a transfer of a firearm that could get you in trouble. The two no-brainers on here is the failure to respond to a trace request. As FFLs, you have 24 hours. That's just, you got to make it happen. You're the first line of defense. You're the custodian of records for the government. That's what you signed up for when you became an FFL. The other no-brainer is failing or refusing to permit ATF to conduct an inspection. Those two right there, let them in, let them do their inspection, help them out, support them through the inspection. We want them in and out. But the other thing I want to touch on trace requests is make sure you're keeping a trace request log. Make sure you're notating all the nuances related to that trace request, when you received it, when you replied to it, who it was for, what the customer's name and address was, what type of gun was it, etc. You want to keep that information. It could come in handy down the road. The big one, as it relates to revocation of firearms licenses, look, you got to be able to account for all your firearms, know when they came in, know when they went out, know who they went to, etc. But the other real big one here is understand that any previous administrative action that's occurred to your license, whether it be a warning letter, a warning conference, or a previous revocation that you won and got to keep your license, repeat violations are willful. So you have to show improvement. You have to make sure that you're doing everything you can to ensure that you're not transferring firearms unlawfully. So that's really key. When it comes to revocations, these are the areas that we're seeing the biggest amount of issues, and the vast majority of FFLs that we support and defend through the revocation process. These are the 10 key areas that we're having to defend and argue in every hearing. So you really need to be paying attention, and that's where solutions like Celerant and 4473 Cloud and Fastbound come in. These solutions are integral in helping you not only perform better as a business, but also perform better from a compliance standpoint. Because right now, you have hundreds of FFLs that are going through revocation, and it's not a fun process. I just got off the phone with an FFL that we're going to be supporting next week and defending, and he's on the edge of his seat, really scared, what's going to happen in this hearing. So move on to the next slide for me. So common 4473, common cited violations, this is available on the ATF website. They update it continually, but any one of us that are on the compliance side of thing will tell you not much changes here. Not much at all changes here. I'm not going to go through every one of these, but I am going to touch on the 5 that are highlighted here. The failure to complete forms as prescribed. I was actually visiting an FFL on a compliance visit last week, and we came up with, it's all in the steak sauce, right? A1, baby. It's all in the steak sauce. Where does the form begin? Don't get ahead of yourself. It starts at A. It's section A, number 1. That's where you start. Do your ABCs, do your 1, 2, 3s. 1 comes before 26A. Don't be conducting background checks while the customer's still filling out the form. That's what's going to cause you the problem. And the beauty of a solution like FastBound is it doesn't let you get ahead of yourself. You got to pick the firearm. The other beauty of it is that when you do enter that firearm, you're selecting it right from your bound book. So it's your last opportunity to make sure that bound book is correct, which, by the way, I've had FFLs that have major issues on bound books. And this really helps you ensure that when you receive a firearm, it's received correctly, the correct information is there. So you want to make sure on your forms, you start at A, you start at 1, you fill it out as the numbers progress, so you don't get ahead of yourself. Failure to maintain an accurate, complete, timely A&D record of firearms. This is big. It's big on the trace request side of things. So you really want to make sure you receive a firearm, you got 24 hours. Don't work towards the exceptions. That is always a weak point. It's always a failure for FFLs. You got to get that gun in within 24 hours. And you need to make sure that it's disposed of within 24 hours. And here again, we're talking solutions. The solutions help you ensure that you are doing everything properly and it's capturing all the proper information. Failure to obtain that completed form 4473, it's making sure everything is dated properly, making sure signatures are there, making sure all of that information is there that's required. Remember, there are 6 things based on where you're at, maybe 7, that get attached to the 4473 that are required to be attached. Don't attach a bunch of other stuff that isn't necessary. Put that in your buddy file. But you got to make sure you have that backup documentation, and in addition, have what's required to be attached. Failure to record that NICS contact information on ATF form 4473. Look, here's the deal. You don't write down your NICS or your point of contact state control number or that NTN. It's basically you didn't do a background check. And if you don't have that information available to you, and there's a couple different ways to get to it, and we don't have time for it, but make sure that you're obtaining those records, the print detail or that summary report at the end of each day, because that tells you all those NICS transaction numbers or all those point of contact state control numbers you were issued, and at least you have some backup. Because again, not recording that is basically you saying, I didn't do a background check. So remember that. And then last, failure to verify or record identification document on 4473. That one's a big one. Where's that gonna be? That's your responsibility to make sure that information is recorded properly and accurately. Make sure you're looking at that ID to confirm all the information. You want to be able to say without a doubt, I transferred this firearm to John Doe. John Doe said that he was going to have it at this address. He provided me evidence that that is his address and that's where that gun's going to be. So really focus on those 5 things, and the rest of the stuff kind of all lumps in together. These are the most commonly cited violations, but these are just some things that we're seeing over and over again when it comes to revocations and warning conferences and other administrative action, where the FFL's on the stump and we're trying to get them out of trouble with the ATF. So what to do next? Here's what you can do right now. All right. You want to keep those 4473s clean, only attach what's required. Right? What's required to be attached? Really simple. You got your 3310.4, which is your multiple handgun sale. You got your ATF form 4473 continuation sheet. There's a continuation sheet right now. It's available out on the website. Just go ATF form 4473 continuation sheet. You're required to attach that if you sell 4 or more firearms to an individual. You got your AMDID overturn letter if somebody appeals their denied transaction. That must be attached. You have a perjury statement. That's supposed to be attached if somebody's buying a gun for an association, organization, company, whatever the case may be. You have your correction sheet if you do a correction after a firearm has been transferred. And you want to staple all of these things to the back of that form. Don't put it to the front of the form. We want it clean. We want an ATF IOI to get through that form in a matter of 15 to 30 seconds. That's how clean that form has to be, okay? You create and maintain that training and communication log. We tell this to FFLs all the time because God forbid you get into a situation where you're facing administrative action. We need to be looking at things that you've done in the past to show that you weren't willful, that you weren't plainly indifferent. And that's one of the things that we look for is how much training have you done? How much communications have you had with local law enforcement, ATF, et cetera? So maintaining that training communications log is big. Maintain that background check results for NICS. It's that NICS print detail or the search history query. If you do the search history query, do it at the end of the business day, you'll have all of the NICS transactions that you ran. If you're a point of contact state, maintain your summary reports that you get at the end of every month. Implement that delayed transaction management program. We're seeing a lot of FFLs get caught up in potential or probable straw purchases, and it really helps you to know this gun was involved in a delayed transaction, and I don't want anybody to come in and try to buy this gun for the individual that was delayed or denied. Make sure that you're managing that. You want to make sure that you're looking at those delays and ensuring that you do not, when it comes within 25 to 30 days of the original create date, you want to make sure that you don't go over that 30 days. So really pay attention to that. Implement that trace request log like I talked about early. Be inspection ready every day. I've had a few FFLs go into these revocation hearings and warning conferences and make that statement of, we can't all be perfect. Well, unfortunately, there are statistics that tell us differently. There are statistics that say 53% of FFLs have 0 violations when it comes to an ATF inspection. You've got to be inspection ready every day.
All right, so we're going to switch gears now, and Travis will take us through 4473 cloud storage.
And real quick before we get into that, just to add a couple things on to what JC mentioned. JC mentioned that if you had previous violations, you do that again, right? Now they're being considered willful violations. I just had a conversation with the dealer. It was actually the opposite of that. So they didn't get cited for a violation in the previous inspection. Be careful that you don't think that not getting cited is an endorsement of what you're doing, and what you're doing is correct, right? Because they came back in fact, this particular FFL had 2 locations. The first location had an inspection, everything went fine. They were using the same electronic bound book. The second location was just inspecting recently, again using the same bound book. But what they did is they brought all the old inventory in, and they used the date that they brought the inventory in as the acquisition date. And I see JC's shaking his head. But they didn't catch it in the first one. So the company was like, well, it must be okay. And again, my point is, you shouldn't just assume because a specific IOI inspected you and you passed, that is an endorsement that you're doing everything correctly. The only way you'll know everything is being done correctly is first you educate yourself. You have a partner like a JC or any of the other folks in the industry who are true compliance dedicated experts that have been doing this, unfortunately, as long as we have, right, JC?
Yeah.
But make sure that they're helping you to be educated on what is compliant and what isn't compliant, what to do, what not to do, how to do it. And I have always said this. JC said, be inspection ready every day. 100% agree. As a leader of your company, you should inspect what you expect your teams to be doing. You can't assume that they're doing it right. You have to be sure they are. and you should be doing those internal audits and making sure that what your team is doing is what you expect them to do. So sorry I jumped on there, JC, but just wanted to throw a little bit in there.
Absolutely.
Real quick on digital storage, there are two rulings that really affect digital storage. The first, they kind of stuck this in the frame and receiver ruling 2021-5R. Basically, you now have to keep your 4473s forever. If you start a 4473, you have to maintain that 4473 forever. It used to be, if NICS wasn't contacted, you didn't have to keep the form. If NICS denied it, you had to keep denied forms for 5 years. And if you did contact NICS and still didn't transfer the form, you had to keep that void no sale for 5 years. And then if you transferred a form or transferred a gun on a 4473, you had to keep it for 20. All of that goes out the window. As of 2022, you now have to keep every 4473 that you start in your store for the life of your business. So that's a big deal, right? Especially when you start talking about paper and paper piling up, and how many bankers boxes of paper do you want to have in your back room? By the way, that's taking up space that you could have more inventory and be selling more product, right? So be aware of that. You have to keep those forms forever. And then ATF ruling 2022-1 allows you to store 4473s digitally without the need for a variance approval. There are a few things I want to touch on real quickly there. First of all, there are 16 specific requirements to store 4473s digitally. So just because you have a PDF doesn't mean necessarily that you're meeting that requirement. So when you're vetting who are you going to store your forms with, make sure that you're first of all familiar with ATF ruling 2022-1. Read it all, read every letter, sit down with the company you're doing a demo with, and ask pointed questions on every single one of those requirements. If they can't tell you how they're compliant, then you need to decide whether or not that is the right solution for you, right? The 4473s have to be stored in a tamper-evident file format. You can't ever alter a 4473 once it hits digital storage. You can make corrections, as JC mentioned, but those corrections have to be done on a copy. So how does that software do a digital correction, and how does it attach a digital copy to the digital 4473? ATF does have a 60-day notification built into the ATF ruling. I don't know why they did it. I'm not sure they know why they did it, quite frankly, but they built it in there. So you have to notify ATF, and then for 60 days, you still have to print your 4473s while you're storing a digital copy. And then on day 61, you can go fully digital. And you have to be able to keep all of your required documentation, as JC just went through, so we won't kick that horse. But all those things that are required to be with the 4473, you need to be able to keep all those documents with the 4473, even in the digital space. And I'll reiterate what JC said. If it's not required to be with the form, do not attach it to the 4473. When ATF is doing an inspection, everything you attach to a 4473 is discoverable. And once it's discovered and they can look at that, we'll just use the old, we keep a copy of the driver's license attached to it. The only benefit to you, well, actually, the only benefit is to the ATF. They look at the copy of the driver's license, they look at the 4473, address doesn't match, now you've got a violation. You're not required to keep that with the form, don't keep it with the form. And then lastly, with ATF ruling 2022-1 is the restriction of ATF's access to those documents. What we hear often is, well, ATF can then do an audit from wherever they want to do an audit. They can get access to my forms whenever they want to get access to it. That is not true, right? They have restrictions to do their inspection. The software you choose should restrict them as well. So make sure that the software you're using only allows ATF access to the documents when they're doing an inspection and when they're doing it within your building. So next slide, please, Michelle. And then lastly, just briefly, digital storage is so much cheaper than printing 4473s, right? It is 2024. If you're using handwritten bound books and handwritten 4473s, you're just asking for a phone call to JC to come help you not get your license revoked from ATF. Use the technology that's available today in the industry, electronic bound book, electronic 4473, digital storage, it's all cheaper than doing it on paper. Paper and ink is expensive. So printing 4473s gets expensive real quick. Digital storage will cost you a fraction of what you're spending today, mindlessly, quite frankly, because you're just used to printing 4473s. So it's like, it just costs the business. But when you realize it's costing you 35 cents to print a 4473 and you sell thousands and thousands and thousands of guns, that gets expensive very, very quickly. So one last bullet point is ATF traces. JC mentioned it numerous times. The quickest way to get an ATF inspection and to get a revocation is not completing a trace in 24 hours. With digital storage, there's no cardboard boxes. There's no dust in the back room that you're digging through. You enter a serial number into the system. It pulls up the 4473. You download it, you attach it to an email, and you complete a trace in about 30 seconds. And oh, by the way, if it's cloud storage, you can do this from anywhere you have computer and access to the system. So you don't even have to be in the shop to do it. So it's a huge benefit from a compliance perspective. And quite frankly, I think it's probably one of the biggest benefits to going digital.
And next we'll hit on why use an integrated solution. And as Travis said, so that you don't have to call someone like JC, right? But go ahead, JC.
Yeah, so, here's the benefits, and Travis touched on a lot of it. When you're looking at these solutions, and I've seen every which way FFLs, retailers, ranges, etc., have come up with systems and solutions to their problems and created more problems than it was really worth. The benefits really are when you start looking at the holistic nature of bringing systems together is, first of all, you can manage your entire business essentially in one place. That's really key. When you're trying to maintain, a separate A&D book and a separate 4473 provider, and you're trying to do cloud storage or whatever type of storage you're trying to do, it becomes a nightmare when it's disparate systems and they're not talking to one another. I've visited a lot of FFLs that are maintaining two separate inventories. They're maintaining inventory for their point of sale, and then they're maintaining inventory for their requirements under regulations, and they're two separate systems. And it's twice as amount of work for you to do. And why? There's no reason for that. So you really want to look at solutions that are integrated together just to make that flow better. And one of the biggest complaints that I get industry-wide, it doesn't matter what size FFL it is. It could be very big, multi-unit guys. It could be the mom and pop shop, whatever the case may be. Well, the solution doesn't work the way I want it to. Okay, well, you got to be a little bit flexible and you have to be a little bit adaptable. I'm going to tell you right now, I've worked in retail. I've worked in retail for multiple decades, and I can tell you I've looked at multiple point of sale systems. There are just some things that you can't make software do. And you have to be flexible and adaptable to that. And you need to take a look at these solutions from the solution providers that are here today and look at the ease of use and look at how it keeps you out of trouble. I can tell you right now, Fastbound has kept more FFLs from doing the wrong thing than a lot of the softwares out there. You have to really, when you're going out looking at solution providers, to spend the money with them, to bring them on board to help you, not only on your operational side of it, but also on your compliance side of it, you need to test those solutions. And I do mean really test those solutions to make sure that they do everything that you need them to do. But again, you got to be flexible, you got to be adaptable. And that's what these solutions bring to you is that seamless integration, that seamless effort that you have to put forward to make a transaction. It should be easy. And keeping various systems and all of that, it just makes it really, really ugly in the end game when you're trying to maintain all this information. And when you can get a fully integrated solution, you really can drive more business and more profitability because you're not spending so much time managing all the nuances. You're spending more time selling and serving your customer.
Yeah, and two quick things I'll add to that too. To your point, JC, about change and being flexible. There's a reason why you're normally looking for a new software solution. You want to do things differently. That's the goal. So it can be difficult at first. It could take time at first, but you just have to stick with it and be flexible because once you get through through that process and you learn the new system, that's when you're going to really get that ROI. And when you're able to save time on everything that we're talking about today, that's when you can spend more time doing next steps for your business, whether it's e-commerce or an app or personalizing your email marketing or whatever it is that you want to do to really help you sell more.
And I'll jump in and say there's a difference between all-in-one and integrated. At Fastbound, all we do is focus on compliance. I've seen a lot of all-in-one solutions that they want to manage your website, they want to manage your SEO, your marketing, they want to help you with your range and your emails, and they're going to try to have somebody that's never touched compliance build them tools to make sure you guys stay out of trouble. And that's why Celerant connected to Fastbound, because all we do is focus on compliance to make sure that you're protected and that all of our features are compliant and are not going to get you in trouble.
And to that point too, we have a lot of dealers using our internal A&D book, but the reason why we built the integrations of Fastbound, we have dealers who want to use Fastbound, and more of our dealers are taking that approach. And so the integration is there, and it's the choice of the dealer, whatever is best for your business. And we don't charge for the integration either. We want you to be able to maintain your compliance how you want to maintain it. So that integration is seamless back and forth to Fastbound, which is
And
what we're
you've done a great job working with our onboarding team, getting people switched over in no time.
All right, James. So talk through this 2 quick slides, and I'm going to flip it to Chris, and we're going to do a product demo.
Okay, perfect, Shelly. Point of sale, A&D integration. Travis talked about it. JC talked about it. You want to streamline it. With the Celerant integration, you're receiving a purchase order, which you can through your distributor feeds. When you guys are placing orders with Lipsy's or Sports South, when the product comes in, it's all synced up. It's going to show up from an accounting standpoint. You receive that product in, and it's going to automatically acquire it in your bound book. If there's an error and you're missing an ATF field, or the system's going to jump out and say, hey, you've got to update this before you actually push that information over to Fastbound. Same thing with when you go to sell it. It's going to make sure that it's disposed properly. The integrated 4473s, that's important to look at, because we're going to make sure that the buyer fills it out correctly. We're going to make sure that the ID matches what's on the 4473, and then we're going to push that information over for the background check, and all of that information is pulled into the point of sale, generating a sales order. And then when you go through and process it and you take payment and you close it out, it's going to make sure that it's properly disposed out of your bound book and notify you, hey, this is a multiple sale. Maybe the individual came in on Monday and came back on Friday and bought a pistol. You want to make sure that's letting you know, hey, this is a multiple sale. We're going to pull all of the information from the form. You're going to be able to print it. You're going to be able to save it to 4473 cloud, and then you transmit it, and it's going to email it to the ATF in your Clio if they have actually take email.
All right, so I am going to flip the controls over to Chris, and we are going to look at a quick product demo. As I anticipated with all of us today, we are approaching that time, so we'll keep the product demo brief. We've got about a little less than 20 minutes left, and then we have lots of questions coming through, so we'll save 10 minutes at the end to get through those questions. So go ahead, Chris. We see your screen, we see Stratus.
Okay, awesome. All right, so really going to try to make this be a lot more simplistic than what we all know what it really is. So we're going to begin with the assumption that you've already put the product into the system, so the product record is already created. And we're also going to assume that you've ordered the product and now it's showed up at your back door. So we're going to go into what we call new at once receiving. And we have a lot of different ways that you can receive items. And usually people are, might be ordering that in advance, but sometimes it'll just be, it'll just show up, like I said, at your back door, and you just need to quickly put it into the system. So I'm gonna hold on 1 second here. There we go. So let's say that the vendor is RSR, and now, this is just new. I'm gonna put in this date. So you're gonna be able to put in all the other information that is, goes around a PO, any kind of discounting you might have or anything like that. but I'm going to go ahead and put the cursor in this bar right here and scan the gun. And here it is. And with our software, you are able to change the cost in the retail on the fly if need be. But for now, I'm just going to put in a quantity of 1. And then I'm going to go up here and hit save. And I get an error message saying, hey, you received a serialized product, but you didn't enter the serial number. My mistake. So I highlight, I hit serial number, and then I put in that number, CT0415, and I hit OK. Of course, if I put in another number, it will stop me once again and say, hey, you said you only were receiving 1 item and you're putting in 2. Point being, it's pretty intuitive to make it so you don't make a mistake. So now I'm just going to hit save. And then once it's saved, about a minute later, it's going to update immediately it's going to update the inventory. 1 minute later, it's going to update Fastbound. And here is what the serial tag will look like. And of course, you're always going to want these tags to be not only accurate in terms of the description of the pertinent information on the firearm, but also obviously the price as well. So that's what that tag would look like. Also worth mentioning, we have recently added reports from specific to Fastbound. So there's all sorts of different things that you can really easily download into a CSV file and print that out if need be.
And that's
also,
a new, sorry, Chris, I know we have a lot of our dealers on here that are using our software. That's a new addition for any of our existing customers on.
Yep, that's 279 is the version that it's in. Also, within the software of Cumulus, we can access Fastbound. So I clicked on Fastbound. Now I have to authenticate. And this part here was just an internal thing for Celerant, but it would take you right here. And as you can see, right here is the firearm that I just received. All righty, so now, Michelle, if you could bounce this over to Jameson, please.
You got it. All right, you should be able to take that. There we go, we see your screen.
You should be able to see my screen now.
Yep.
Perfect. So just want to show everybody here, this is what the bound book looks like. Here is the CZ that Chris just acquired in from RSR. And just to kind of expedite it and go through and show you how simple it is to do the 4473, I'm going to jump into that. So buyers come in, picked out the CZ. You're going to go into Fastbound and start a new 4473. Right here in section A, you're going to use, you can manually type it in, or if you've got a barcode scanner, just scan that label. We're going to search for it. Once you find the gun, you're going to come in here. You're going to confirm that all the ATF fields that you received in are correct. And then we're going to go in here and we're going to lock this for the buyer. When we lock it for the buyer, it's allocated for this 4473. So if somebody else comes in and tries to purchase it, it's going to say this is already attached. You're going to generate a 3-digit code for the buyer and just let them know your PIN number is 310. You can have an iPad, Chromebook, pretty much any device that has an updated browser set up with your store's little landing page here. Buyer will walk up, enter the PIN number, pulls up section B, it shows them the firearm that they're filling out. I'm going to use my cheat tool here and fill this out. And then I'm also going to scan my license to assist with the 4473. So the buyer scans it, pulls it up, the buyer can look at it and make sure all the information is correct. They sit here and they check the box, yes, I confirm it's correct, and then they click continue. Once the information's on there, it's going to help them fill out the 4473, but it's not going to populate information, and they're going to have to still continue to fill in the city limits, errors like USA, United States, and county. They're going to have to go through and put in the correct county. They cannot put today's date as their birthday. If they forget to answer a box, it's going to jump out and let them know they have to answer it. So I'm going to go through and correct this. If they forget to answer one of these questions, it's going to let them know they have to answer. If they answer a question and it disqualifies them, we're going to allow them to continue to submit the form, but it's a hard stop for you. So on Fastbound, when you go to open the form, it's going to let you know they answered, E incorrectly to ensure that you do not proceed with this transaction. Once everything has been answered correctly, we're going to go through, check the box. They're going to sign here. They're going to date it. This has to be today's date, so I can't put my birth date in there. Once they've gone through and certified it, they sign it, they submit it. It's going to come back. They hand over their ID to you. And it will show up in here in just a second. This is on one of our developer servers, so it takes a little bit longer. But Otis shows up right here. So now I'm going to go through and I'm going to process this 4473. So first thing I want to do is add a contact. We're going to check your contacts to make sure that Otis has not previously been in. This is a new buyer, so there's no existing contact. Otherwise, we would match it with an existing contact. So I'm going to create a new contact. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to scan the ID on my side because I want to make sure that everything they entered is correct. So verify, everything looks good. Once I've got that, it's going to include the information on 26A. As I confirm that it's all correct, I'm going to hit save. If you're in a NICS state, you're going to click NICS. If you're in a point of contact state, then it will take you directly to that state. Let me enter this password here. So for NICS, once you use your credentials to log into NICS with our browser extension, you'll be able to come in here and just hit fill and it'll populate this information for you. Go to the next page, hit fill. You can continue to go through until you get to the end, submit it, copy your NTN, come back to Fastbound. You'll scroll down here. You'll put in the date, paste in your NTN, check proceed, and then you'll continue to go through the form. If you're doing an NFA product, you would check 28. If you've got a concealed carry permit, you would bypass 27 and go down to 29. And then once everything's done, you just come down here, type in your name, digitally sign it, put in today's date, and then hit save. I'm going to generate a TTSN, save it. I'm going to come up here and preview this and make sure that everything's correct. So now that the form has been filled out, we have you look at it. As you can see here, you can read everything. If you guys are still doing paper 4473s, you'll be able to notice right here that his name is Otis Sergio Chapman, and I can read everything. And once I've verified everything is correct, this account is tied to 4473 Cloud, so I'm just going to send it over there. We send it, they receive back confirmation letting us know that they received it. And now I complete this pending 4473 and I create a pending disposition. And at this point, you can go back to Celerant, you can pull up the pending sales order and take payment for the firearm.
All right, Chris, I just sent it back your way.
All righty. And do you see my screen?
Yes.
All righty. So now I'm going to go over here and hit this button that says recall 4473. and it'll come right up. And similar to what Jameson was saying, this is on our development computer, so it's a little bit slower. So there we go. Normally you can put in the customer's first and last name or even the serial number, but I'm just going to hit search. And what's going to happen is normally it would just list the names, the actual firearm. So let me try that again. Normally you would just click on here, you'd highlight it, hit recall 4473, and then it would take you back here where you would just hit pay, and then it would finish it off. And then it would automatically create the acquisition record in FastPound. Okay.
All right.
All right.
So I'm going to take it back. Can y'all see my screen?
Yes.
All righty. Well, thank you, gentlemen. That was just a quick demo. We can, oh, Jameson, do you need it back to your way?
Yeah, I was going to show 4473 Cloud, just how when we submit over to 4473 Cloud,
All right. Let me
run through that really quickly.
Yeah, we are getting close to time. I was trying to.
We'll make it quick. We'll make it real quick.
All right. You should be able to take it.
Okay, you should be able to see my screen now.
Yes, we do.
Travis, do you want me to run it or do you want to run it?
Just go ahead and click the documents page and I'll just talk super quickly about, and you can see right there at the top, that's the form that came over. All of this happens in a matter of seconds, quite frankly. And the biggest thing I want to show you real quick is just how to do a trace. So Jameson, if you'll go over to search documents on the left and just click and then do serial number. There you go. And click search again. And you can see how quickly it automatically brings up the one form you're looking for. From this point of view, all you would do is click view. This will give you all the information on the left about the form. Click view one more time and you'll be able to see it. This is where you would review the 4473 and make sure it's actually accurate and what you want to do with it. And then you simply on the left hit export document. It takes it just a moment to export. You take that exported document, attach it to the email that came to you from the tracing center, and you're done. So again, as JC mentioned, traces are critically important. Being able to complete a trace in a matter of seconds with cloud is the biggest benefit, I believe, to the entire system, along with saving all the money and all that other good stuff. But being able to do a trace is critically important. So we're here to do a full demo anytime for anybody, but just wanted to touch on that real quick, so you can see how quickly it came across the APIs. So.
All righty. So now I took it back. You can see my screen?
Yep.
All right. So we are going to wrap it up. One last slide before we get to the questions. So we talked about all sorts of stuff today, all related to compliance, about the software, how an integrated solution helps streamline everything. And the way we look at it at Celerant is really helping dealers take their business further. So everything we showed, we call phase one, really automating with the point of sale, with the e-commerce, with the vendor integrations, with the compliance integrations. But even if you're not using Celerant, depending on who you're using, ask the questions, because really your software should help you do a lot more than even everything we talked about here today. Everything we talked about will save you a ton of time, ultimately giving you time to do other things like expanding your channels, marketplaces, email marketing, personalizing it, SEO for your website. Then you can take that even further with a mobile app or a range app, mobile marketing, push notifications, changing the way you're marketing to your customers, and really taking your business to that next step. So again, whether you're with Celerant or not, your solution provider can hopefully offer a lot of this stuff. You just have to ask those questions and start planning out where you see your business a year from now or 5 years from now. And then selecting a software that can help you achieve that. All right, so it is exactly 2 o'clock Eastern. For those of you who can stay, we do have a lot of questions coming in. Let's just hit a couple of quick questions. We will answer all the questions via email because we are not going to have time to get through all of them. So I'll go through a couple of quick ones. This first one, Travis, this looks like it's for you. My 4473 already gives me a PDF. Can I just save it on my computer and be done?
You can save it on your computer. You will not be in compliance. So the short answer is no. Just because you can generate a PDF doesn't mean that you're storing it in compliance with the ruling. So again, going back to those 16 specific requirements, saving a PDF copy on your desktop doesn't meet any of those. So be very careful about that. You can always save a PDF copy, but just know that's not your official record. So if you want to do it, store digitally, just digitally, only digitally, then you have to use a software that meets the 2022-1 ruling.
Got it. Okay, this one is for JC. JC mentioned put all the NICS contact info in the 4473. Where do we add that now after a callback from the lay?
Yeah, they don't have that anymore. What a lot of FFLs are doing that are used to recording the operator ID and their name and all that kind of stuff. We did away, or ATF did away with all that on the 4473. You can certainly record it in box 32. But when it comes to your next transaction number, the point of contact state control number that's issued, obviously they have fields for that. You also need to make sure that you're going through 27A, B, C, D, E, and making sure that you complete those as prescribed, depending on the situation. But box 32, we call it the story box. If you want to record that, I got a bigger question for you. Why are you still calling in NICS transactions? ENIX, baby, ENIX. You can do it all online. I know it's 2024 and we got to get over that, technology hurdle, but you're sitting on a webinar right now. Sign up for ENIX. Even if you're still calling it in, I don't care. Keep calling it in. Fine. They're just going to keep moving resources away from the call in. And they're already 80% of their resources are all electronic now. But understand, if you sign up for ENIX, you will have a backup of that background check. If you don't sign up for ENIX, once you get that control number, just at an FFL last week, 8 characters, wrong characters, missed characters, the whole 9 yards, they didn't have ENIX. And luckily, those transactions, I caught 3 transactions that only had 8 characters of the NTN. Luckily, they were within the time period where I could still go back and get them. I got them signed up for ENIX, and I saved them on 3 transactions that would have caused them a revocation. We were able to prove that they did a background check on those individuals. So be mindful of that. Get set up with ENIX. Keep calling it in. That's fine. I'm not an advocate of it. You get online and you can just enter in everything real quick and get your results back and know exactly what happened with that trend.
All right, JC froze, but that's okay. We have more questions. If the customer misreads and answers the question wrong on the E4473, can they change it?
With Fastbound, you would have to void out the form and have them start all over.
And if that does get all the way through, let's say you don't catch it at the beginning,
Yeah.
it's all the way through and it gets transferred over to cloud, then yes, you can make the correction with our correction tool in cloud.
Okay, we'll do 2 more. Is feet tax tracked for manufacturers?
Say that again, Michelle.
Is FEAT tax tracked for manufacturers?
Oh, federal excise tax. Jameson, that's a you question.
No, it's not. You can pull separate reports to track that out of Fastbound, but you'd have to include your cost and sell price, and then you can generate a report and separate that information out.
Okay, now we do have a lot more questions, but we are out of time. So I will make sure that all of the questions get answered via email. And thank you everyone for staying with us 5 minutes over. This last slide here has our contact information. There is a bunch of web pages there that y'all can check out, one specific to each of us with a direct email and phone number. You can also go to Celerant's website, celerant.com/blog. We post educational blogs every week. So even if you're not looking to learn more about any of our individual solutions, maybe you're just looking to learn how you can lean on software and learn more industry best practices. And so I encourage you all to subscribe to the blog and get lots of educational content delivered to your email every week. Thank you, gentlemen. Travis, Jameson, Chris, JC, I think we lost him, but we got through it. So thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Hey, thanks, everyone.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye-bye.
You.
Bye, y'all.